Maharaja ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Sri Caitanya-caritamrta,
Sri Caitanya-caritamrta, Adi-lila, Chapter 3. The external reasons for the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, text 88. So we'll try to read Bengali.
Apmanalok yati Krishna Nanda yatnakare Tattapi tanhara bhakta Janaye tahare tanhare. Перевод текста.
So the translation of the text. Lord Sri Krishna tries to hide himself in various ways, but nevertheless his pure devotees know him as he is. So there's no commentary in here. So this is the psychology of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that is described here. So he is hiding himself. There's a special energy, there are special energies that can hide him, make him totally unnoticeable, or make him vanquish, to make it feel like there is no God at all, there is no such notion. And here it says, as he is. Only the pure devotees can tell about that. So he is not connected to the material activity in any ways. He has nothing to do with nothing material activity. We will face some energies, some laws, a lot of other reasons. There can be a lot of them. We'll be working with these reasons, trying to improve something, to make some progress, to support our lives at least. In this sphere, we'll be doing something, in this material sphere. But at the same time, when a person is engaged in a material activity, he feels some difficulties, because it's hard to do that. Nothing comes for free in this world. You have to make a lot of effort. You have to go through a lot of sufferings, and a little bit of happiness that you get is just a very tiny thing. And sometimes this person refers to God, either because of his sufferings, or his need, or just out of curiosity. But his motives, they do not interest Krishna, these material motives. Krishna is only interested in the way this person is calling up to him. A person's interest in asking Krishna is just asking him for help in this material world. because this person is burdened with these material responsibilities. So he thinks that if I call up to God, He will help me. But the God does not pay attention to these circumstances. He sees that the value is totally different. The value is in this calling. So this calling should be sincere, and that straightly depends on how Krishna will react to your calling. If a person is calling to Krishna just out of their material values, it may not work from the spiritual point of view. So there are the laws of karma and cause and reason. Everything is controlled. But here we have this situation, the person calling up to God, asking Him to save his life, even though he hasn't deserved this happy life. The God might give him what he wants, but with another motive, just to firm his faith. Because faith is the first stage, and then the process goes on. So these motives, they define our relationships with God. And everything that is going on in this world right now, absolutely everything, this everything depends on our relationships with God. All of the other circumstances and conditions, they all depend on these relationships. Only on this reason. If a person does not have any relationships with God, that means that he will not have relationships with anyone else. Because these gets projected on everything else. If there are no relationships with God. So these are not the relationships that we have in material world. We only have egoism, selfishness. Negotiations mean mutuality. So these relationships should be mutual. So we associate with each other until we like each other. Once we don't like this person, we stop these relationships. That's like a beneficial communication. So until it's all beneficial, that's all fine. But if this person stops being pleasant to me, if he stops fulfilling my desires, we will stop these relationships. But initially we have to have these relationships with God because we serve Him selflessly. He's the best friend of all the living entities. It's natural. So when we start our relationships with God, understanding who we are, understanding that we are servants, so I should fulfill His will. Only then the God opens up. Krishna opens up before us. He becomes understandable to us. He may be God, or He may be our friend. In the material world, we call Him God, but a pure devotee could say that, no, He's our friend, the friend of all living entities. Someone says, if there's God, why doesn't He give me what I want? So this is egoism. So even though when a person calls up to God just because he's suffering, anyways, Krishna values such people. Even this calling means that this is a great soul. That is the beginning of a most elevated life. another civilization, if we get all the material bliss, this is a true civilization. We are totally dependent on the nature, on the interaction of all these gross elements. But amazing fact is that a person, a man, can contaminate everything. Even though this planet might look like such a big place, oceans are limitless, so we can contaminate everything, even the air, the earth, the water, everything. That's because we don't have these pure relationships with God. The earth seems to be so big, but it turns out that it's so sensitive. God is limitless, but at the same time, He's very sensitive to each and every one of us, to every living being. He knows an approach to every one of us, and especially this motive, it opens Krishna up before us. Even if we call up to Him material desires, it's very valuable. If there's no motive at all, there's no God then. A person is praying, but nothing comes out of it. So there's no comment in here. So we'll read one more text. So this is a citation from Totra Radra in Chaitanya. So Krapajana Prabhu, could you please read this Sanskrit? O my Lord, everything within material nature is limited by time, space, and thought. Your characteristics, however, being unequaled and unsurpassed, are always transcendental to such limitations. You sometimes cover such characteristics by your own energy. But nevertheless, your unalloyed devotees are always able to see you under all circumstances. So there are 6 ways that Krishna opens up before us. First thing is that when He shows Himself physically. So one day in Brahma's life, in Vrindavana, and He shows His pastimes. So the second emanation is a spiritual teacher. The third one is all the devotees. So Krishna manifests Himself through these devotees. They can get you closer to Krishna, give you a feeling of Krishna. So there's also His different energies that Krishna can manifest Himself through which. There are also His expansions and avatars. So these are 6 manifestations of Krishna in this world. So that's how He manifests Himself. And that's how devotees identify Him, recognize Him, through His pastimes. We say that Krishna was. Well, probably, on a historical point of view, He was here 5,000 ago. We tell this to materialists. It's not like He has been here, He's still here, still exists here. All these pastimes in Vrindavana, they still take place in Goloka Vrindavana. It's just like we see sun rise and sunset, but it's always there, it never disappears. There's no such thing on this sun as night and day. It's just the way we see it. So that's why pure devotees, they do not say he was. He is still here. He's always here. He's here in the form of power, in the form of thinking. He's not dependent on either thought or space or time. That's what this is said here. If we are connected with Krishna through Bhakti Yoga, we become connected with Him despite all the circumstances. The same way, devotees can see Krishna through their spiritual master. All the Shastras say that a spiritual master is the representative of God. Just by associating with your spiritual master, you can feel Krishna. Through devotees, and also we know there are a lot of expansions and avatars, and his energies. We see energies, it's just, he pierces through everything. If we know his manifestations, and it turns out that energies actually, they open him up before us. So how do you realize Krishna? How do you understand that Krishna is the possessor of everything? Prabhupada says, who is this Cain? His disciples say, yours, Prabhupada. What about my glasses? They're yours. So that's how you can realize Krishna. You can also say that everything belongs to Krishna. All these energies, they all belong to Him. He's controlling both animate and inanimate. Everything is under His control. A pure devotee can understand that. So this verse is also quoted from the Stotra Ratna of Yamunacharya. Everything covered by the influence of Maya is within the limited boundaries of space, time and thought. Even the greatest manifestation we can conceive, the sky, also has limitations. From the authentic scriptures, however, it is evident that beyond the sky is a covering of 7 layers, each 10 times thicker than the one preceding it. The uncovering layers are vast, but without covering, space is limited. Our power to think about space and time is also limited. Time is eternal. We may imagine billions and trillions of years, but that will still be an inadequate estimate of the extent of time. Our imperfect senses therefore cannot think of the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor can we bring Him within the limitations of time or our thinking power. So don't get surprised. Space is just ether. Let's call sky what we call space in this world. And it seems to us that space is limitless. This ether? No, it's not. Ether is a material element. It does not exist in the spiritual world. Spiritual sky does not consist of ether. It's a wholly different nature. But we imagine ether, we imagine the spiritual sky in this space of ether. We think of it with help of our mind. And this way we try to understand, we try to have some understanding of the spiritual sky. It's not ether that we should be talking about. Well, yeah, there are these things that you have feelings and mind and wisdom. So your soul is above your intelligence, your mind. So there are 5 gross elements that the world consists of. There's also Paravyoma, the spiritual kingdom, beyond all these gross elements. Of course it is hard for us to even imagine what's beyond ether. even the way it looks, or even beyond our mind. Of course, it's very challenging for a conditioned person to have these representations, this imagination. So he strains his mind to understand it. Here it's another thing. It opens up love to God. Space in the spiritual sky is love. It's called Satchitananda. So this is love. This is space. So any number of years can be a part of it, can be contained in there. No matter how many numbers we have, they just confuse us. But the math of this spiritual sky, 1 + 1 = 1, and 1 - 1 = 1, there's nothing challenging in it. The difficulty is in our mind, in all these gross elements, because there are no gross elements in the spiritual world. The spirit cannot be divided. You cannot divide a spiritual body into some elements, some muscles, spines, bones. It's impossible. This is a whole thing. It's a solid thing. In addition, you cannot even separate soul from the super soul. It's impossible. In the spiritual space, the laws are different. And here we have to surpass these spaces and fight against the time. So we have to keep up, because the time makes us move. If we lose the track of time, we lose something in our life. That's what we think. And there is no such thing in the spiritual world. So Lord Chaitanya, he has brought this medium, love to God. With the eyes of love, we can see the spiritual space. What's there? Yes, solemnity is always there, and at the same time everything is balanced and deeply satisfied at the same time. The ocean will never go out of its boundaries, out of its shores. So the great ocean of prema, on the other side, on the other hand, it's a great peace, because there are no reasons to be afraid. Even when there's a storm on the ocean, there are no reasons to worry about it. So there are these big waves of ecstasy. So this is a solemn event. This is like a holiday. This is a whole saturation of happiness. These are the spiritual skies, and we are learning it just by hearing it. This jubilance. So these concepts, they go through somewhere, and they go deeper than the mind. And we might feel these ecstatic emotions. That's because we are the dwellers of the spiritual sky initially. We are particles of Krishna initially. By our essence, we are designed for this happiness and eternity. But while serving, as soon as the soul is going to lord it over, it has to fight against the thought, space and time. That's when it starts collaborating with Maya, using its own thoughts in space and time. Maya tells you, look, everything belongs to you, you can lord it over. So I give you some time to play Lord here. Become a great soul, live alone. This is Ayurveda for you. Support your life. But the body of a semi-god, demigod. So that's why devotees, they never trust the mind. Because Maya works through mind, and Maya is hiding these energies. devotees engage their mind in serving the Krishna, about the transcendental world, about Parayoma, about Satchitananda. So that's why his position is called Ulankita. He's transcendental to space, time and thought. He's beyond this concept. So although he appears within them, he exists transcendentally. Even when the Lord's transcendental existence is disguised by space, time and thought, however, pure devotees of the Supreme Lord can see him in his personal features beyond space, time and thought. In other words, even though the Lord is not visible to the eyes of ordinary man, those who are beyond the covering layers, because of their transcendental devotional service, can still see him. So you see, this ability surpasses all these yogic siddhas, this ability to see God. Because if you see God, it is said, you will see everything. This is the light of knowledge. This is the all-giving blessings. The matter is that he's got a lot of names, a lot of qualities. You will be able to see everything. You will not just see a subject looking like a man, like an ordinary human. You'll see God. So when we look at a human, we see subject first of all. Only when some time passes by, we understand what kind of person he is. And in addition, we will not even be able to understand what kind of person he is from the spiritual point of view. Sometimes you might even get disappointed when we get to know this person closer. It is such a difficult science to associate with each other, to fight the selfishness. So God is a manifestation of the true greatness. If you see him, to see means darshan. So he also must see us. And of course, he sees the devotees. He says in Bhagavad Gita that the devotees are very dear to him. So just like we chant holy names, someone can even chant more than 16 rounds a day, and it gives us happiness. So the same way, Krishna chants the names of his cows on his beads. There are a lot of cows and he knows all the names of them. When he chants every cow's name, the cow says, yes, I'm here. So the other cows are waiting for him to pronounce their names. That's because he's God. He is gifting. He's not greedy, he's not weak. He's the richest. He's all given. If we see God, we become the successors of God. In everything, richness and knowledge and beauty, in renunciation, in his power. So Krishna gives any power to his close servants. So, take Garuda, for example. How do you measure their power, their strength? Where did they get this strength from, this power from? From God, of course. So he can give us any authorities we want. You can get as much power if you want. You want some wealth? Take as much as you want. If we see God, we become gifted people. This is the supreme perfection, to see Krishna. But it is said that until He looks at us personally, we will not see Him. It's either He comes Himself, or we get it from our Guru, from devotees, from His energies. This is either the expansion or avatars, 6 reasons of God's manifestation. And Sri Caitanya-caritamrta starts with the description of holy masters. So this is a traditional thing. If you want to see God, feel Him. So you have to call up to the one that can see. So this is a tradition that can see God. Krishna says, do not call up to me, call up to your spiritual master. But you see Arjuna, he started talking to Krishna himself and he said, I'm your disciple now, so teach me. I want to get some instructions from you. But traditionally, we approach our spiritual master, devotee of Krishna. And we see that everything that we see is the manifestation of Krishna, although He is above all these things. It seems to us that the cloud hides the sun, but actually it is the eyes of the tiny people below the cloud that are covered, not the sun. If those tiny people rose above the cloud in an airplane, they could then see the sunshine and the sun without impediment. Similarly, although the covering of Maya is very strong, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, this divine energy of mine, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. The knowledge. So Prabhupada gives us an example of an airplane. So you see people develop the knowledge, they study physics, so they create an airplane, they go up above the clouds and there's sun in there. People get surprised. When we were living in Sakhalin, in northern part of Russia, see the place where the temperature does not go above 11 or 15 degrees in summer, so it's very cold. Because it's all surrounded by a very cold sea. Even in summer, the fog is always very cold, but usually summer is always cold. And so this Sea of Okhotsk that is surrounding this place used to give us this constant rain without stop in summer. So it's always cold. Even the sunflower wouldn't ripe, but the potatoes is really good. The best potatoes probably. Just because of this you can live there. Or some berries, you know. Sometimes we used to get some very sour strawberries, cucumbers and potatoes that do not grow there. We used to bring them from some other place. We don't even get to talk about apples. So if you are born there, not just because you came there, not just... Sometimes, yeah, well, you can see some sun there in the summer, and there's an airplane. You get in it, for example, to go south. You go up in the sky, you see sun, open sun. There's nothing else, no obstacles. You get so much surprised, really. So theoretically, you do know that sun must be somewhere over there, but still you get so much surprised when you see the sun going up above the clouds. They're like, wow, this effect is just amazing. There's so much light, there's so much energy. You think to yourself, wow, oh my God. You feel so happy. You're going south where the sun always exists. So this condition, we live under the clouds, under the material energy. But he is above all of this. So the same way scholars with the laws of physics, they create some airplanes. Yeah, they can take these airplanes up in the air. Yeah, there's some knowledge in it, some science. But there's also a science of how to get above all these gross elements. It's also knowledge, knowledge of God. It's an amazing thing, because qualitatively we are the same in Him. He shines, we shine as well. We are the particle of His shining. See, and this little particle is enough to control the whole universe. That's what Brahma does. And we are still flying in airplanes to see the sun. We really lack of the sunshine, lack of happiness, the taste of life. We lack good personality, money, of course. The main reason is in this. Well, personality might not be such a big problem, but if we have enough money, that's all going to be fine. So obviously, we all lack of money. That's what people think. In ignorance, conditioned people. But the point is that this money is the rain hiding the sun from you. This cloudness. It's also annoying, so irritating. There's no sun. So when I used to visit my sister in Sakhalin, she always used to joke, because every day it was raining. Even though you can see some sun, it's like, it's a minute and then it hides away again. So she was always joking. So in the village of snakes, it's raining. So that was kind of a joke. Everywhere the weather is okay, but in a village called the Snake Village, or Snake Village or something like that, you know, she still lives there because she feels freedom in there. So the nature gives you this feeling of nature, as in no other place. The free people living there, they're hunting. Even if you don't have enough money, you just take a rifle and just go hunting. You can fish as well. You feel like a free person there, just like a wild one. So people, they value this freedom and they live there just for this freedom. So although this place is not good at all for living, just for the seals probably, these seals, you know, they just live on the shore. They're so happy, you know, with this mustache. Very fat seals, just like logs. So they live in this cold sea. They have really thick layer of fat and they feel really good. Even there's some happiness, you see. So then I went to Magadan. So I thought Sakhalin was hell. Well, probably I didn't know anything about Magadan back then. So we went to that place. It was even colder in there. So even the tree that used to grow in Sakhalin, which is called the Swiss pine, it was even shorter there. And there's no such concept as summer in there. So I just went for a walk. The nature is amazing there, of course. I love its nature. But it's really cold there. The environment is really not attractive. Really poor huts. So people just go there to make money. There's no culture in there. So move in, move out. The energy of climate is just like that. People make a lot of money. They used to make a lot of money there. So I just went for a walk, chanting mantras. And there were some travelers in there. I met him. The school children. Probably they were on some holidays. So they started a fire. They were boiling some tea and singing. So I was just passing by. People that were just enjoying it, singing songs. So I was just trying, to adapt to this climate. It's so cold, big amount of water, this really cold wind blowing from the wind. I couldn't even imagine living there. But here I can see these people being happy, singing some songs, sitting around the fire, singing some really cheerful songs. So that's what I thought the happiness is. So I once told to Karabanjana an interesting story about people buying a melon and then pouring some sugar onto it. So they poured this melon, they offered it to Krishna, and then they just put some sugar on it. And they were enjoying it, but then Chaitanya Prabhu said, like, what are you talking about? This is not even a melon. It means like you haven't tasted any melon in your life at all. So this is like aparatha, why you glorifying it? It looks really bad. So you see, everything is very relative. So yeah, the point is that there's a comparison to everything. We compare the things all the time. We find this shelter in very relative things. But when we approach Krishna, all these things, they end. That's what we are reading in this text. We put an end to it because we approach the limitlessness. The one that controls all the living entities, all the laws, knowing everything. The point is that he does not know himself to the end. He knows all the things thoroughly, but he does not know who he is to the very end. To surpass the influence of the illusory energy is very difficult, but those who are determined to catch hold of the lotus feet of the Lord are freed from the clutches of Maya. Therefore, pure devotees can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but demons, because of their miscreant behavior, cannot understand the Lord in spite of seeing the many revealed scriptures and the uncommon activities of the Lord. Unless the person approaches Lord, he will not have any skills to really understand what's going on. He will just like a spark leaving the fire, and this spark will faint sooner or later. They will die. So this is a straight responsibility of a person to call up to God. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that you can call up to God with any motives. Even if the Lord satisfies your material desires, anyway, you will get a bliss even more that you had wanted, just because you were approaching Him. Mature devotees, they know that Lord does not sometimes satisfy all our desires. Devotees understand it and they accept it with gratitude, because sometimes we do not even know what's better for us. Sometimes we're asking for something that can harm us, actually. So devotees that are unexperienced, they contact God just because of money. So He gives us some money and then you have this faith in God. Your faith becomes even firmer. Even if it's in a material platform, that's okay, at least you do have some connection with God. So it doesn't matter what reason you contact the Lord for, whether it's material, not material, even if you think about the liberation, about moksha, it doesn't matter. Any kind of desires. If you try to approach God, you're on the right way. The point is in Krishna. The sense is in Krishna. A person is given this right to think about God. Krishna has given this intelligence to a man to give him an opportunity to think of Krishna. All the rest is called the animal existence. So we'll leave up some time for the questions. So these were two texts from Sri Chaitanya Caritamrta, Adi-lila, 3rd chapter. The external reasons for the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, text 88-89. So now, questions, commentaries, impressions. Thank you, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu. Victor, could you please make an announcement? Hare Krishna, dear devotees, the ones watching us on YouTube, please click on the link below the video and send us your questions. We'll try to read them aloud. Thank you. So if you allow, I would underline some episodes that I've heard today. So in the 88th verse, it was saying that the Lord is hidden from the others. Some can see Him, some cannot. And of course, in the following verses, Prabhupada explains that the Lord cannot be hidden from the view of His true devotees. And probably we can touch upon the topic here of Krishna's hiding Himself. Why? Because probably the others, the materialists, they do not even want to see Him. They just want to see in the world controlling everything, lording it over. They don't want to see God, and God says, okay, that's your will. So this verse from the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So I'm just fulfilling your desires, the Lord is saying. If you don't want to see me, that's fine. I'm okay with it. So it's quite remarkable. See, there's an anecdote, remember? An atheist coming to God, knocking at his door, the secretary opens it up. So this person says, I came here to God, let me in, I'm an atheist, I want to see God. Secretary comes to God saying that, there's an atheist at the door. And God says to him, tell him that I'm not here, otherwise I don't exist. So then in the 25th verse, Krishna says, I am hidden from them. Yogamaya or Mahamaya, with the help of these Mayas, I am hidden from the materialists. So there are also some terms as Dvashtra and Dristra, the one who can see, like the all-seeing eye, which is Krishna, and we are the ones who should be seen. So that's why Srila Prabhupada used to say, behave in the way that Krishna would notice you. So Krishna cannot hide from the view of the one that is moistured with the balm of seeing. Now just a couple of more words. As we are reading Caitanya-caritamrta, it's all connected with the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So very soon in summer there'll be holiday called Rath Yatra, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to go away for 2 weeks from Puri, like 10 to 15 kilometers from Puri, because this time of the season, the raining season was actually starting, and the Lord comes out of his temple and he gets cold, then he's kind of sick, in quotes, and no one can get darshan from Lord. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being unable to get darshan from God, he went to Alarnath. He would just go there because he couldn't resist this fire of separation. So just to cool down this fire, he would just go there. And there's a question arises, why does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes there to see the four-handed deity? There are a lot of deities, Radha, Krishna, that followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have. So why does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leave Puri to see this four-handed deity, especially four-handed deity? Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur has built a temple close to that place because this deity is not usual. This deity is very sacrificial. Answering the question about why Krishna sometimes manifests himself before some people, but he hides himself with other people. So when Krishna just disappeared before the eyes of gopis just to enhance their love, their feel of separation with him. So Radharani was walking ahead of all the gopis, looking for Krishna, and then Krishna just has manifested his four-handed form out of the bushes. Gopis, they just came there, and they said, they took a bow, they said, "Oh, Narayana, please accept our obeisances, we're looking for Krishna. Could you tell us where he is?" Narayana pointed using his four hands that way, and they all went there. But he couldn't hold his form when he saw Srimati Radharani. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the form of, it's the prema, the Madhurya form. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he went to there to get darshan of this four-handed deity. And also you said that everything comes out of Krishna, all the energies. Using these energies we can comprehend Krishna. We can approach Krishna. A pure devotee can see Krishna everywhere, just like the mother can see the shoes of her daughter, for example, and the slippers. Even though this child is a grown-up person already, even if he lives in another city or country. So by just remembering these childish attributes, a mother can start crying. Why? Because this attribute, this element, the shoes, the clothing, whatever it is connected to a specific person. So the same way, if one has received this ability to see, he sees Krishna everywhere, just like Srila Prabhupada used to see. Remember this example in Calcutta, there was a siren notifying that they will be bombing. So Prabhupada he has just taken a seat around the table to start eating. So then there was a devotee passing by, said, let's go to the special place to hide yourself from bombing. And he said, if these bombs come, I will see Krishna in it as well. So thank you so much, Chaitanya Chandra prabhu. You have awakened so many thoughts and memories in my head. So I just wanted to share them all with you. So Victor Prabhu, here you go. So Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. Thank you so much for your lecture. So what if a person is interested in God and he wants to get in contact with Him, but at the same time, this person wants to do it alone? He kind of rejects the Holy Scriptures. He doesn't associate with devotees. He doesn't listen to spiritual masters, and he's trying to contact God directly without even associating with anyone else. You see, the desire is kind of correct, but the direction sounds to be not very well chosen. And there are some other people that does not want to get in contact with God, but the circumstances in their lives that work the way that they make you contact God. Even when I was choosing the translation of Bhagavad Gita, I was doing everything in my power to choose the translation of Bhagavad Gita translated not by Srila Prabhupada, because I was afraid of Vaishnavas. And I've read this Bhagavad Gita translated by another devotee, and this has finally led me to Bhagavad Gita of Srila Prabhupada. See, I was estranged from it, but anyway, it has led me to this Bhagavad Gita. Now, it's just what I'm driving at. There are so many people that do not even understand how to do it. They choose this path, but they do not know how to follow it. You see, you've almost answered your own question. So, for example, a person does not trust religion, and of course there are there's some basis for it. If this person is scientifically educated, he's a thinking person, of course he sees a lot of disadvantages in all the religions, in the history of religion. He might find a lot of disadvantages, or you can get frustrated in any religion. In the Holy Scriptures that do not answer all your questions, they do not give you this deep knowledge. You can face fanatism. So people become non-believers these days because they want to feel and touch everything. Only then they can believe in something. That's what they think now. But when they want to contact God directly, that's a good moment actually for these people. Because if they call up to God sincerely, that's when Krishna, deep from his heart, he connects these people with devotees. This person, he just gets this really, this feeling, this deep feeling of associating with devotees. There was one woman praying to Jesus Christ that has come to Krishna's consciousness. You see, but not only here, there were some other people. They were in Christianity praying to Jesus Christ just because they wanted some more knowledge. They wouldn't just get all these answers from the priests. They used to tell, just pray and repent. So they were asking Jesus very sincerely. Then within just several days, they would meet devotees and they would get all the answers. And they understand very well that Jesus has led them to Krishna. That's what they say. Then they even talk to the priests and they said, that's okay, if Jesus Christ has led you to Krishna, then that's all fine. So people don't trust religions. You know, I've never trusted religions myself as well. But I do trust, I have always had faith to prophets. But in religions, you know, when people lord it over, they try to be bosses over there. I don't trust them. But since there is faith in God and the prophets, everything works out the way they want it. And you have a taste of associating with your spiritual master. You have a taste of practicing. So eventually this process takes over. So it's not so bad. I mean, this desire to contact God directly, that means that they already have some faith. But isn't it ahankara? So I want to contact God. There's got to be like a guide. Yeah, well, yeah, this is ahankara. But if you do not even call up to God, I mean, that's even worse. Of course, this is ahankara because these are not liberated souls. There's an anecdote as well that I was told when I was in Abkhazia, or it was some other place, Ossetia. So there was an anecdote about a priest that is praying to God and about a hunter. So it was in Caucasus. So a person that hates God. So this priest, he's constantly praying to God, he's trying to preach to people, to make them repent. And this hunter, he would go out every day into the field and he would call up to God. So come on, he said, you've done a lot of things here, just all because of you, you're the reason to everything. So there are so many miseries just because of you, what kind of world have you created? So come out, and as soon as I see, I will shoot you down. I will kill you. So that's how he has spent all his life. And the priest was praying. And then the time has come to both this priest and hunter to die. So a priest has been drawn to hell, but the hunter has been drawn to the paradise. And so the priest would just say, like, what is the matter? I think that there's a mistake. So take me to the paradise and this hunter to hell. So then they told him, why were you praying all the time? Just because you were getting paid. You were thinking about the benefit. You were doing it professionally. You haven't even called up to God. You were just doing your job, your work, just fulfilling your responsibilities. So that's why we're drawing you to hell. And this hunter, you see, he believed in God. The point isn't that he was calling up to Him. He knew that God existed. He knew that the God had created this world. He just didn't realize why the world is like this. So according to his faith, he's going to paradise. So even in this anecdote, the value, we understand the value is in different things. Everyone has false ego. The criteria, the main criterion is that your sincerity of calling up to God. So when you want to get rid of this ahankara, Krishna gives you this opportunity. You develop humbleness and servitude. Krishna makes this process unique, happy. But this is only for the ones who sincerely call up to God. Thank you so much. So it turns out,
если человек хочет напрямую, без каких-либо посредников, обращаться к Богу,
if a person wants to call up to God directly, so this is already a good sign. This is already some kind of a piousness, but this does not allow this person to realize this truth in all fullness and try serving to God. But that means that sooner or later, God will meet with devotees. And this person, he will eventually understand the importance of the representatives of God. So probably it's not a bad thing when you call up to God directly. God gives you this opportunity. So there can be a comparison drawn, just like Sri Prabhupada used to say. So it's like we are in a dark room, in ignorance, in the darkness of ignorance. That's where we are born. And this approach to God, it means that we are lighting a little lamp, a very tiny lamp. So even having this really small amount of light, you can orientate yourself in this dark room. you try understanding some things, you start understanding some things, some circumstances, because you call up to God. As well as you turn to light, you start seeing all the rest of the things, even if it's really dim. So when I was just starting, these things and stuff, but because of the ahankara, well, you think of guru, but still you think to yourself that, I'm a person that have to make my own conclusions, some kind of an individualism. But then I've read in Shastras, just like the water is taken from the river, and milk is taken from the cow, it's a very clear things. Water from the river, milk from cow. Knowledge is taken only from the spiritual master. And it was like an enlightenment to me. Such a simple thing. That's because I was practicing. Just because I was practicing the name of Krishna. So more and more you learn, more and more knowledge you get. But it all starts with calling up to God, with approaching God. You just light up a little lamp. So as God is absolute, it doesn't matter if it's favorable or hostile. You call up to God and He's absolute. Everyone gets benefits. Everyone benefits out of it. Even if you touch upon the philosophy stone, every thing turns into gold. When God hears you, calling up to Him, He says, okay, then I will arrange all the rest of the things for you. So He leads you to the holy people and devotees, and you change. But that's the other thing in the question of Victor. So when a person calls up to God sincerely, there's a pure motive. But on the other hand, sometimes a person calls up to God just to become God, to become God-like. So this is another psychology. So this is a false path. Remember that story of Ramadas? They started being together with Raghunatha Das. So he said, please allow me to go to Lord Chaitanya together with you. I will not bother you about traveling. I understand that you are very elevated devotee. I'll be just carrying your things on my head and reading Ramayana. No other words will be coming out of my mouth. So I'll be tolerating everything, chanting Ramayana by heart and just carrying your things on my head. So please just take me with me. So Raghunatha Goswami was touched by this. He thought that this person really wanted to see Lord Chaitanya. So he said, yes, of course. He got very happy. So we'll show this pure soul to Lord Chaitanya. And yes, indeed. So he was carrying these things on his head all the way. And when they saw Lord Chaitanya, so he gave a hug to Raghunatha Goswami. And he did not even see that Ramananda Dasa. So please take a look at this Ramananda Das. He really wanted to see you. He was chanting Ramayana and carrying my things on his head. So he's a devotee. But Lord Chaitanya, he did not even look that way. You know why he's doing this way? Because that person, he wanted to become the Lord Rama himself. That's why Lord Chaitanya didn't pay any attention to him. So it all depends on your sincere motive. So very often do not understand the real motive. But this manifests more and more with time. Sometimes these people, they go to Mayavada, onto Mayavada's side, imitating some things, can be the sahaji of my body, and this can last for a lot of time. So this person can be doing it birth after birth. He will not go to God unless he realizes himself as being a particle of God. You have to understand that you are his servant. That's when your path opens up in front of you. And there's also a very important detail, when this person with very strange motives, if he meets on his way a pure devotee, then this person can see this aspect of serving, this humbleness. And in connection with this, we can remember the story of So Narada Muni thought that Brahma was our Supreme Father until he saw Brahma praying to someone else, worshipping someone else. So Narada Muni came up to his father asking, whom are you worshipping? Then Brahma said, that's a good question, because you've given me an opportunity to talk about the Supreme Personality of God, the source of everything. So that is why it is very important to meet pure devotees. Are there any other questions? So there are 6 questions on YouTube. So yesterday I met Buddhist during Sankirtan. He said that everyone can become Buddha. So what would you say to this person? Yeah, it's high time for us to become Buddhas, all of us. Buddha means enlightened. Well, this is okay. So it's not a serious deviation probably, and it's not going to harm them. Because Buddha for them is every enlightened person. Buddha means enlightened. But they separate Gautama Buddha from the highest Buddha. So they kind of separate these two notions. And see, Buddha means enlightened. Everyone can join this enlightenment and become Buddha. Bodhisattvas, they're also called. So I think you have to wish him to become Buddha quicker, start preaching Krishna's consciousness everywhere. Well, some people need Buddhism this time. For some of the people, this will be the right choice. In Buddhism, the morality and compassion are very important in this tradition. The highest criteria of morality is ahimsa, don't kill, and they follow it. The real Buddhists, they follow it. And compassion, they develop the reason of it. So compassion for the living beings. In this sense, this is a great study, great tradition. And for many of people, this can be a very good beginning. So another question, dear Guru Maharaj, what's the difference of thinking about bhakti and the bhakti itself? What is ecstatic thought if it limits you? Ecstatic thought is when Krishna comes into your mind. That's when you have this thought, ecstatic. Usually, look, a usual thought, it's between the other thoughts. So you think of something, think logically, and then a conclusion comes out. You're like, wow, that's good, I've just come to this conclusion. So that's how it usually works. It is just some kind of emotional schemes, some logical things, sankhya. But ecstatic thought is a different thing. It's not included into this chain of thinking. it kind of sparks out by itself,
как вспышка, без причины.
just like a spark,
То есть вы не думали,
with no reason. You haven't thought of it, it just came out on the surface, and you have it.
помилуйся, Кришна.
Then you have this understanding, this realization,
Да, вспышка.
kind of a revelation.
Это экстатичная мысль.
So this is an ecstatic thought.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Знание от гуру. А вот книги Прабхупады в этом ключе это знание или просто
So the
информация?
books from Prabhupada, is this knowledge or just an information?
Практикуйте всё, что там написано.
If you practice everything that it says there, this is knowledge.
Если не практикуете,
If you don't
то
practice,
информация.
so this is just an information in the beginning.
Информация, что
But this information is so powerful that it will make you to practice sooner or later.
точная информация. Если вы все книги Прабхупады прочитаете,
If you read all Prabhupada's
будете
books,
обычным человеком.
you will not be a simple person
Потому что
anymore.
не написано это обычным человеком. Это вся
Because
парампара.
This has all been written not by a usual person, not by an ordinary person. Krishna is on these
Если
pages.
вы просто прочитаете все книги
So if you
Прабхупады,
just
вы не
read all
узнаете.
Prabhupada's books, you will never be the same again.
Но когда уже будете практиковать,
But when you practice,
то этого океана будете черпать сколько хотите.
you'll be taking as much information from this ocean as you want.
Почему приходят болезни? Это
So why do
карма,
diseases
чистка
come?
или результат
Is it
неугодных
purification,
условий
karma,
состояний?
or the result of negative thoughts? Oh, this is all true, just what you've just said. This is karma in a general sense. Purification. See, our karma has to be realized this way or another, through diseases or sufferings. Even when you get happy, when you're glad, you're just spending your good karma, then you will have to get another good karma. And when bad karma realizes, you understand that this is your purification.
Результат нежелательных мыслей.
And the third one is it was about the result of negative thoughts. Probably not so directly, because in the Kali Yuga age, thoughts are not taken into account. We're not responsible for our thoughts anymore. In the Kali age, but the mind gives us the first impulse. And when the action takes place, that's when we have this activity. We also have to watch our mind, because if you think of something, you do it, and then you will have to be responsible for what you've done.
Харе Кришна, примите, пожалуйста, мои
Hare Krishna,
поклоны.
please accept our obeisances. Thank you very much for your lecture.
Солнца и Луны.
It is said that there is no sun, moon, and light in the spiritual world. But it doesn't mean that it's dark there. And also, does that mean that if in material world we have ether, space, is there such a notion as a spiritual sky? The spiritual space where we exist eternally. And how does it manifest? So in the spiritual world, there's an absolute medium. You're not different from that medium. You're no different from that time. You're no different from that light, from that shine. But at the same time, you are different. Space is also a living entity in the spiritual world. Space is something as nothing else as Balarama's body. But the earth is also his body, and little jivas are also his body. Everything that you can see in the spiritual world or material world, this is the body of the Lord, Sankarshana. Maha Sankarshana and Sankarshana here. So this is all one solid God. And at the same time, everything is different from each other.
Вот это ачинтя пхеда татва. Ачинтя означает, что непостижимые вещи.
Achintya means something incomprehensible, something that you cannot understand. So you can communicate with space, with trees, you can talk to your hands, with your eyes, they can also reply. Oh yes, Krishna's eyes, they can also think. Other parts of your body, they can also do some functions. So I cannot explain what the spiritual world is by just using words. Anyways, we need this experience of joining, of unification. See, the point is that when the other person is connected to something, we can see only symptoms. When the person becomes indifferent to happiness or unhappiness, and it doesn't matter for him anymore who his friend or his enemy is, these are the symptoms. These are just the external symptoms, external signs. But these symptoms, they point out that this person used to live in another dimension, having other values in the spiritual world, where in every place everything is self-sufficient. If we cross the space to get into a store, and then the store is everywhere, but just don't think about it in a physical platform. Don't think of it as being a store. There are no stores in there, of course. It's called Kalpavrikshas there, everywhere. Everything is possible there. No restrictions. Everything is possible in the spiritual world. This word impossible does not even exist. So let's just not imagine these things, and I think that's enough for you to know about it. It's just for us, it is more important to concentrate on our spiritual practice. And this sound, it will be opening before us this spiritual platform. That's when we will have this understanding of what's going on. Thank you. On Friday you said that now we have to concentrate more on preaching. Can you give us some examples of practical and theoretical preaching? So theoretical practice is jnana. Jnana, vijnana, astikyam. So these are the qualities of Brahman. You have to possess all of them. When you can act in knowledge, this is called wisdom. When you apply this knowledge. For example, you say Krishna's consciousness, this is the best that can happen. But now show it to us. Show it. If you could show it, people would have taken up this knowledge a long time ago. Prabhupada could show us a lot. That's why a lot of people have joined him eternally, and they serve him for their entire lives, because he could show us the spiritual world, vijnana, to be able to touch, to feel. Not all the people are ready to get on the level of Brahmahams. You need to have Varnashram and Dharma supporting, controlling, to help the society not to fall. So this is also very practical, to use this knowledge through Varnashram and Dharma, through a civilized organization of a society, and the activity to satisfy Vishnu. So we need to learn how to use these things, how to act according to these things. when we learn to apply this, everyone will say Krishna's consciousness is good, and everyone will understand that. So we show them these things by our examples, our values, the way we do everything perfectly, the way we are talented and creative and happy. Everything should be manifested, so that other people could see it. So let's read one more question for today. I've been chanting mantra for more than 10 years, and now I've just noticed that I'm afraid of this world. I don't like it, and this does not allow me to preach. And because of this quality, I neglect my body and finances, probably even other people, and I'm really suffering from it because I feel like I can live better and I can help other people. Well, actually, I'm moving a little bit forward, but maybe there's something else that can help me. Compassion. If a person preaches, you have to develop compassion. So Prabhupada says that with no compassion, it is impossible to become a preacher. Well, you can try, but if you do not develop compassion, this will be really hard for you. Unbearably hard. If you don't like people listening to you preaching, if you don't have this feeling to them, if you don't feel like giving them some blessings, with the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, you won't be able to do it, to do this activity. It will be unbearably hard for you. So that's why compassion is necessary. So think of it. All the preachers should think of it, should take this into their account. So thank you, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu. So we will finish our lecture for today. So His mercy, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu Jai. Karpajana Prabhu. So tomorrow Chaitanya Caritamrta. So I'll be reading if you give me your blessings. Your humble servant.